on Alabama Avenue, Benning Road, Georgia Avenue. Those places where we know we haven't had the development that we need, and that's where we have to focus. We don't need to provide an incentive to build a new hotel next to a new convention center. That's called the market takes care of that by itself.
I want to know why y'all closing down our hoods instead of building a village and start helping us make our hood a better place, give out jobs. How can y'all talk about affordable houses if we don't have jobs that they have paid? Every time I turn around, why I see a 30-day notice on people's doors, but you don't know the next place they're going to go and they could be homeless. Instead of them putting money on stadiums, they should help people pay their rent.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's a good question.
Yes, it is a good question. I agree. And it points to, again, how the political leadership in this city has just abandoned certain neighborhoods and certain areas of Washington, D.C. What I ask you to look at is the record of these candidates. What have people been doing to address the very problem that that young woman articulated? I was not in political office. This is my first run for political office. And yet I've been working for 20 years to address what I have seen as the wide and growing opportunity gap in Washington, D.C. Whether it was creating job training programs, whether it was putting technology in our schools when the city didn't have the money or didn't have the wherewithal to understand how critical it was. I provided, through my company, an internet connection to every public school and every public library in Washington, D.C. because I couldn't stand the fact that our students were getting left farther and farther behind and not being part of the new digital age. The bottom line is, we have to provide help for people, meet them where they are. If they need assistance for the basics, food, clothing, and shelter, as a compassionate community, we have to make that available. But ultimately, we've got to work hard to make people and communities strong so that they can work, they can take care of themselves, and they can contribute back to the life of the city. That's what we have to move toward, not to continue to foster dependency, but to move people to independence, because that's what everybody wants to do. Stand on their own two feet, work a good job, take care of their families, and contribute to the life of the city. And that's what I want to work toward in the Johnson administration.
What's happened in this campaign is that people in the District of Columbia have actually looked at my record. And they've seen the fact that I was the person who introduced and passed the School Modernization Act. They've seen the fact that I was the person who said we have to close down Oak Hill, a dilapidated youth center, and we made sure that happened. They've seen the fact that I was a person that, yes, put the dollars in the Housing Production Trust Fund and made sure they went to people with really low levels of affordability. And yes, most recently, after a spate of homicides, the people of the District of Columbia saw the council come together in an emergency fashion and do what? Nothing. Come together with another piece of legislation, and they saw me do what? Say, not this time. We're tired of you just coming together and not doing anything. The people of the District of Columbia want real results, and this young lady does not want to see young people innocent arrested for standing outside their homes at 10 o'clock. She wants to see them with new recreation centers, fixing our schools, making sure that we're providing real resources in these communities. So if you want people who are just going to get elected, come together when there's an emergency and put together a piece of legislation that does nothing, Adrian Fenty is not your candidate. But if you want somebody who's going to roll up their sleeves, put in the hard work to make sure police officers are walking the beat, that we have resources in these communities so kids get a good education, that recreation centers are rebuilt, that we have job training and jobs available, and Fenty's your candidate, September 12, 2006.
I'm Vanessa Dixon from the DC Healthcare Coalition, and I want to ask the candidates about their commitment to health care. There are 150 hospital beds in the eastern half of DC to serve 250,000 of the sickest people. There are 5,000 hospital beds in the western half of DC for the healthiest people. There are 29 doctor's offices in eastern DC, and there are 650 doctor's offices in western DC. I want to ask the candidates if they support a hospital at the DC General site, the National Capital Medical Center, that would serve this community and would also help to serve western DC, since its emergency rooms are being overwhelmed by people having no place to go over here and having to go to western DC hospitals and dying on the way. If there's a council member who supported DC General Hospital but does not support another hospital at the DC General site, then I want to know why. 2 other mayoral candidates do see the need for a hospital at the DC General site, Crop and Orange. I want to know why either one of you, what your position is.
Well, first, we've been extremely remiss. We're in Ward 8, and we should acknowledge the presence of our Ward 8 council member, former Mayor Marion Barry. Please give him a round of applause. And I stood with Vanessa and voted against the closure of DC General. But I know that my colleague on the council, Marion Barry, and Councilmember Catania, came together earlier in the last couple of weeks and said, listen, we've got a plan to build 3 new ambulatory centers east of the river or right along the Anacostia River. And when we do that, and Councilmember Barry has said very loudly, we're going to build those ambulatory centers, and then we need to see where there is a need for emergency rooms, whether it's in Greater Southeast, whether it's some other site. And that plan makes sense. And I think a lot of people have worked hard on it. We're going to work hard on it. Make sure we have these ambulatory centers and look to see then what other uses are needed in these communities, whether it's hypertension-based care, whether it's some type of other care. There's so much different diseases that are inflicting our community. HIV and AIDS is a big one. People are having problems with their heart. We can have those programs in our community. It's not just a hospital issue. The number of doctors east of the river is in the single digits. You can go to some buildings at 19th and K Northwest, and they can have more doctors than that on a single floor. So that's why this plan that Councilmember Barry and Catania and others came up with is a good plan. Is it the last part of the deal? No, we should build on it, but it is an excellent start. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, for your question. It's a very important one, and it is true that the hospital resources in this city are very terribly arrayed. They are clustered in one part of the city, which leaves the east part of our city vulnerable. We have got to address that critical problem. The question, though, is, I've said many times throughout this race, we can put 2 hospitals on Reservation 13, but we still will have tremendous health problems in our city. I believe that we have to put hospital resources on the east side of the city. No question about it. But what we have to look at, because what you will find with Marie Johns, I will never pander to you. I will not insult you by just telling you what I think you may want to hear. But we have to address these critical problems thoughtfully to understand how we really can get at the root causes that are affecting this community. When we have so many of our neighbors who are suffering with primary care problems, hypertension, diabetes, HIV and AIDS, our rates of infection and affliction with these diseases point to the fact that we do not have primary care resources in the eastern part of our city, and we've got to deal with the hospital need, but also primary care. I have said plainly, I believe I'm the only candidate who has said that I believe we have to have tort reform. We've got to make sure that insurance rates and that our medical malpractice rates are in line with a way that we're not running doctors out of this city, because that's what's been happening. I haven't taken money from the trial lawyers because they don't like what I'm saying. But we have to be honest about what's facing us, and we have to look at our healthcare needs in a holistic fashion. It is not just a hospital, but it's a hospital plus doctors, primary care resources, medical homes, and community health care workers. And I want to create a cadre of workers who will go to people's homes to see if that elderly person is taking their medicine, if that new mother is doing well with her new baby, so we can build a healthier community from the bottom up. And I've been told there's time. I have one more thing to say.
Say it.
All right. The other thing that we have to make sure we understand is that we can make a difference to make ourselves a healthier city if we educate our people and we really meet people where they are. It's a hospital, but it's a whole lot more than that.